Call the meeting in order, please. Item 2, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 3, adoption of the agenda.
Romano adopts the agenda.
Support Van Sickle.
Romano, Van Sickle, please vote.
Motion passes 12-0.
Item number 4, approval of minutes of Public Service Committee meeting that was held on December the 5th, and Public Safety that was held on December the 11th. Motion, please.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Van Sickle, Grot, please vote.
Motion passes 12-0.
Item number 5, public participation. Is there any, this will be your first time to speak under public participation. You'll be able to speak at the end of the meeting. Anyone from the public wish to speak?
Good
Name,
afternoon.
address, date of birth.
Date of birth, really, Commissioner. So 4/27/78, we'll start there. Andrew McKinnon, Harrison Township, Michigan. Thank you very much. Taurus, there you go, Commissioner Kraft. I just wanted to bring to this board's attention a couple of the items that are on today's agenda, and I know that the prosecutor and his staff is going to speak to them as well. The prosecutor is asking for pre-litigation counsel for this board to approve money for pre-litigation counsel, which has been asked for in the past and is currently being litigated at the state Supreme Court. We believe that if the issue is passed and the contracts are brought forward, if we were to approve those contracts, it would moot the issue that's currently before the court. So we are not capable or able to approve those contracts. Time is not of the essence here. Prosecutor Lucido did personally serve, in my opinion, inappropriately, Executive Hackle at his place of residence, not here at his place of business, as would be expected of a public official. I don't think any of us would want to be served at our place of residence. So that's already been served. It's already been filed at the appeals court. So there is no timeline at this point. There is no rush at this point. We can certainly all have additional conversation about that at this point. In addition, he is asking for that money to address the reclassification of a particular individual within his office. This board, through its appropriations process, stated that if the reclassification happened, then the money could be available for the prosecutor to utilize. That reclassification is not done by this board. It's done through a collective bargaining process. That collective bargaining process has very specific language within it, and how you reclassify an individual, that's up to the Human Resources and Labor Relations Department. Prosecutor Lucido, in his pleadings to the Court of Appeals, states that he has approved that reclassification. I think that's a misstatement of the process, is probably the best way to go about that. And so we would ask this board to not approve those two items, allow for those processes at the state Supreme Court to take its course. And once it does, we will then be able to have clarity on the issues and move forward together. That's really it from me. I appreciate all of you. Have a happy new year. Is this the first time this year? So happy new year. And again, 4/27/78. Thank you very much, Commissioners.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public, please? Anyone else? We'll close public participation. Thank you. Item number 6, Macomb County 2025 to 2029 Comprehensive Parks Natural Resources Master Plan. Jerry?
Chair, I'll make the motion to refer to full board.
Mr. Hall and Commissioner Wallace. Go ahead.
All right, so I'd like to present our 2025 through 29 Comprehensive Master Plan. This was developed, took us about 14 months of work between every division in our planning and economic development, as well as reach out to several other departments within the county, including our roads department, facilities, public works, and such. So it's very comprehensive. We had some other major plans that were created since our last plan that we wanted to make sure were included in this one. So it's sort of a comprehensive. So when this board formally adopts this plan, it adopts all 5 levels of this plan. If you were able to look at it, it includes urban forestry partnership that we've been working very diligently on, our greenways plan for Macomb County, strategic agricultural plan, the first of its kind within the county for agricultural conservation and assistance, non-motorized plan, which you've probably seen before, and our water paddling trails. All of those were incorporated into this plan. We set it out for public input Memorial Day. We completed that Labor Day. We are happy to say we got over 1,200 respondents, which is probably a all-time high mark. So, and we targeted every single corner of this county. We asked every single community to put out signboards with a QR symbol. This is how we got really good representation from all parts of the county. So we're very proud of that in that operation. And we think it came together very well. We had to do additional reach out to some communities that had additional information they wanted input into some of the regional planning. So what you have here is the end product. We come to you in January because in January we hope to get the resolution passed at the full board next week, which will allow us to utilize this plan starting February 1st to going forward with additional grant writing. We are required to have this by state law, and so really puts us into a good position at that point to go forward. So I don't know if there's any questions you might have, but I wanted to make sure I was here to answer any.
Any questions in the commission? You know, there's 3 resolutions here. We can separate them or combine them together for a motion.
There's people on the list now.
Commissioner Zinner.
Thank you, Chair. Gary, in regard to the parks, what is different about these parks than that Macomb didn't have? I think I read that.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. I think some of the people who've been here at the last session probably got a whole lesson on that. But so we're not really, we don't own and operate parks per se, but we do own Freedom Hill. So we get that mostly through our facilities program is running that particular park as a festivals ground. But we also have the Macomb Orchard Trail. But we also assist, so in the region of SEMCOG, there's a lot of funding that comes down either through the state or federal level or through Department of Transportation. It's earmarked, there's a certain percentage of Department of Transportation money that is earmarked for non-motorized. And so we comprehensively put that into this plan for regional trails, and we work with our road department to actually get those put into the tip as needed as the projects rise up and the communities want to support those particular programs. We're doing the same thing with our greenways and the urban forestry and all the other pieces of it. So it's not per se that we're trying to create a parks program, not the programming, but what we're doing is the regional planning that the local governments can then adopt at the local level for additional funding as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Sabatini.
Thank you, Jerry.
Yeah.
First of all, just great job. I thought how you implemented the plan in the sense of getting the public's opinion on everything with the QR codes. I know with my community, we've got 2 large greenways that go right through it. So Certainly was a lot of opinions there in the sense of how to use those
Yeah.
and maximize collecting this information. But I know the ultimate plan here, just for commissioners years ago, we were always trying to get all of our bike paths, everything connected, and we were always saying, oh, it'll be done in 5 years, and it'll be done in 10 years, and it's like almost 20 years later, and we're still working on that.
right.
That's how complex of a project
It's
is. But,
expensive, yeah.
but ultimately, I think this is a great plan. I like that we had great feedback on it, and ultimately now, you know, you can go back and get those grants, because I know those grants are certainly needed in a lot of different areas to, you know, meet what your mission is and to hit your goals. So just want to say great job.
Thank you.
Chair.
Thank you. Before we vote, let me, let's read these three motions here that we need to approve first.
Chair,
I
we
make
need
one
to
note,
vote to Refer his plan to full board.
Commissioner Perna, can I make
Yes.
one other note? So at the time of development of this plan, if you look on the page where we acknowledge the Board of Commissioners, our District 1. So I'm going to make sure that I work with either Kyle or somebody else to make sure that that name, do we have a person or a name yet? Or will?
Next week.
So will that be before or after the, I guess we'll know who that is, right?
The same meeting. The same meeting.
Okay.
It'll be before we close for the meeting.
Would it be okay for us to insert that name into so we don't have to make an amendment?
Yes, we could, I don't know how the agenda will work, but most likely how that falls in, we can probably put this later in the agenda and just amend this right on the floor and put that
Okay.
commissioner's name right in there.
Or you
I
can
think
maybe
we
even
could
just
do that.
add it to the resolution today
we could add
that
it, yeah,
we can
exactly.
add it administratively. That would probably be the easiest way.
Yep.
All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Hall, you said we need to vote on this first before we read the motions?
No, go ahead.
Okay. First motion was to receive and file the proposed Macomb County 2025 to 2029 Comprehensive Parks and Natural Resources Plan presented by Planning and Economic Development. Two is to forward the plan to the January 23rd full board meeting for adoption through a resolution adopting Macomb County's 5-year Parks and Natural Resources Master Plan. And third is to hold a public hearing at the January 23rd meeting, 25 board meeting, full board meeting. Please vote.
Did you want to add that that amendment or the administrative piece, or do we do that now, or? You'll take care of it? All right.
Motion passes 12-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, item B, 2025-12877, resolution supporting the submission of coastal grant application for Heart of the Great Lakes Series in Macomb County. Jerry again.
Yeah, thank you. So here we go, another grant. So putting it to work already. So actually, if many of you may have seen 2023. I'm sorry.
I just had a motion to receive and file forward to board.
This is
I'll make a motion to recommend a full board.
supports, okay.
Please vote.
Okay, thank you. And we created through the Coastal Zone Management Program, which is through NOAA, National Oceanic Atmospheric Agency or Administration, has a pass-through grant through the state of Michigan. We're considered coastal waters, boundary waters. And we created a film called Hidden History of Lake St. Clair. If you haven't seen it, it's on YouTube. It's a way to document a lot of our historical, cultural pieces about our waterways. And at that point, we realized that there was a need for several other parts of it to be developed into a second series. The Coastal Zone Management people invited us back for an application. This is one of the rare grants where you have to have a resolution of support to even apply for the grant. Doesn't mean we're even gonna get it, but we still need a resolution. We're looking forward to doing a $104,000 documentary on potentially some of the shipwrecks, some of the Tuskegee airmen that flew out of Selfridge, as well as some of the Prohibition history along our coastal waters and other points of interest. So that will be put into place, but we would need support by this body to go forward with that grant application.
No speakers? Commissioner Kraft?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hi, Jerry. Quick question on the timeline. When is the application due? When do you expect to find out, if we receive the funding or not? What does that time frame look like?
The pre-application was already due, but they knew that we could go within 3 months and get a resolution. So that's why we're here now, and that would allow us to qualify for it to be considered for full funding. We probably won't find out. They always say August, September. Our experience, I think we've had about 8 of these grants in my tenure. We usually don't find out until November. So, and then you're already like in that first quarter. So it becomes a rush, So we probably really won't know until the end of the year.
Okay. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No other speakers? Please vote.
Motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Next item is item C. I'd like to add the C, D, E, F, and G.
Motion to refer to full board.
Support, Lucido.
Brian?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. First and foremost, I just want to congratulate Commissioner Sabatini on the chairperson position, and welcome and congratulate Commissioner Wayno and Howard to the Board of Commissioners also. So item C is the cost share agreement with the City of Sterling Heights. This is in regards to a traffic control device on Moravian Road south of 15 Mile. This was put in as part of our project at the request of Sterling Heights. This is just a cost share agreement for the continued operations and maintenance of that moving to the future of about $2,000 annually on average. So that is what is being requested on item C. Item D is a cost share agreement with Chesterfield Township for the rehabilitation project of Sugarbush Road from Callens to Jefferson Avenue. Total cost of the project is $1,664,000. Our cost as a county department is $299,975. This is a federal participated project, so 80% federal funds for the construction project itself. The rest is split 50-50 between us and Chesterfield Township. Item E, once again, is a cost share agreement with the City of St. Clair Shores for a reconstruction project of 10 Mile Road and Little Mac intersection. That is a local agency project, so that is split 50-50 between us and the community, which is City of St. Clair Shores. Our split is $129,280,000 out of the $258,560 as far as the total cost of that project. Item F is a cost share agreement with Harrison Township. This is for the rehabilitation of Jefferson Avenue from Metropolitan Parkway to South River Road. Total cost of $2,169,600. Our county cost as a road department is $391,122. This is a rehabilitation project, 80-20. Once again, 80% federal funds for the construction project itself, and the balance of the monies is split between us, 50-50 between Harrison Township. Item G, you'll see a contract modification. This is for our 2024 pavement preservation program. This is one of our annual programs that we do every year. And it is to preserve our pavement throughout the county. We have a program that we evaluate every year, put projects on. I know, as I had explained with our budget moving forward, we were able to bolster both our concrete and our asphalt pavement programs by $1 million each for this next or current cycle that we're in. But we did have monies that we had savings from other projects from last year that came under budget. And instead of just wanting to put that back into the general fund and move forward, we had a contractor that was on a contract that was willing to use the same pricing that we had under kind of contract with them to do additional work for us. And we saw the value in that. So we took advantage of that same contractor, finishing a little early, to add some additional work to their plate, at the same pricing that we had got as they originally bid it earlier in the year. So that is seeking a contract modification adjustment in the amount of $1,027,389.07. So if anybody has any questions on those items, I'd be happy to answer them.
Commissioner Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hi, Brian. Quick question on the Chesterfield project, because that stretch of road is where the middle school is. Is the plan to, if you know this, is the plan to, close one lane at a time so traffic can continue to go to the school? Is it supposed to happen over the summer? Do you know how that's going to work out?
We, with projects that do touch upon whether it's community schools or hospitals or whatever, we do communicate timeframes and plans and processes with those entities. I can get you a breakdown of what we're thinking, but we will communicate with them as far as best timeframes. It's not going to be a project that's probably going to be able to be fully done under the summer with them being out of school. But we will coordinate very closely with those types of entities, especially schools with school bus routes and kids getting to school and families being, driving the kids to
No rush
school.
on that. I'd appreciate that just in case I do get phone calls so I can alleviate some of your burden a little bit.
For sure.
Just to help the cause. So
Much appreciated, yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Kraft.
Commissioner Romano.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Brian.
How you doing,
Well,
Commissioner?
Item C, cost share agreement, City of Sterling Heights, traffic control. Total cost, $2,000 annually. What costs $2,000 annually to maintain?
That deals with power that's to that. So the power that is generated to make those function, they pay the power. And obviously
I'm sorry,
over,
Brian, don't let me interrupt you. When you say power, you saying the electricity?
Yes.
So you already know ahead of time what it's going to cost on a yearly basis?
our traffic department annually for these types of crossings have an average pricing per year. So that includes the operations and maintenance. Operations is more of the electricity and power payment. Maintenance is obviously if it gets hit, if we have to replace bulbs, if we have to update equipment, that's what that is on average. I'm not saying it's gonna be $2,000 every year. It could be $500 one year, could be $2,500. It depends on the operation for that particular year.
Okay, so it could fluctuate.
Yes, this is
Very
not a
good. That's all I
flat
have.
fee that we're charging, independent of everything else. It's actual costs that are associated with that crossing.
All I have. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Commissioner.
Commissioner Van Sickle.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Brian.
Good afternoon, Commissioner.
The 80% federal matching funds, are they earmarked for these particular projects, or are they being pulled from a larger pool of money?
We have what's called a FAC, a Federal Aid Committee, throughout the county, and it involves all 27 communities. Within that community, every tip cycle, which tip cycle means Transportation Improvement Program, that's where the federal monies are housed. So we get 3 years of federal funding. It's actually 4, but one's an overlap year. So we just went through the FAC process for the years 26 to 29. 26 being the overlap year from 23 to 26 tip cycle. That money is discussed. The entities submit projects to us. We have some projects ourselves that go into the mix. They go into a rating system and a scoring system. And we have a subcommittee that evaluates all the projects that are submitted. They know what funding we have available for those 3 years, basically, which is, I think, was about 50 to 60 million total. And then those projects are brought forward to the full FAC for all communities to vote on. And that's where the 80% federal funding projects are determined.
Do you sit on that group that decides?
I do not directly sit on that. I attend the meetings. I have 2 of my staff, Scott Wanagot, which is our county highway engineer, runs our engineering department. He sits on as the chairperson currently. And I have Irvin Weich, who is our planner, involved in the subcommittee in the process of that. So we do, as an agency, have 1 vote in the whole process of the communities, as well as the subcommittee. I have 1 person on the subcommittee out of the 7 that are a part of the subcommittee for.
So all the 27 or 28 communities in Macomb have a representative?
At the full FAC, they have an opportunity to have somebody represent and vote at that meeting.
Okay.
Yes, we have multiple meetings.
So these monies do come out of a pool that's a fixed size,
Yes, correct.
but it's decided on through this committee process and meetings and.
The projects are, the size of the money we get is not. We're
Okay.
dictated what money we get and what's available, and they adjust that regularly.
Thank you for explaining all that.
You're welcome,
Thank you,
Commissioner.
Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Howard.
For item G, the 2024 pavement preservation program, how do you guys decide what roads do you address on that? And are those already pre-selected for this, for that, or a continuation?
This is projects that we did for the 2024. So these were projects in 2024 year. That process is we have a laundry list, whether it's a concrete program or the asphalt program. We have more locations than we have funding any particular year. So we do have a kind of a running list that we kind of run off of. But that is input from our staff, our maintenance people, and our community leaders. So we meet regularly with the community leaders through our core program, community outreach and education. So we meet regularly with communities, with their asks and wants. Our maintenance staff goes out to a lot of locations regularly, so we get feedback from our maintenance staff as far as problem areas. And then obviously our staff and myself driving around. It's accumulation and culmination of all those people coming together to determine our project. Like I said, any particular year we have more projects than we have funding, so if they're not done one year, then they're still on the list for the next year, and we kind of just tackle it that way.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
No other speakers? Please vote.
I'm missing 2 votes. I can call on you. You can voice vote. Commissioner Wallace? Commissioner Boino?
Yes.
Motion passes 12-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Item number 7, it gives me great pleasure to turn the gavel over to Commissioner Romano.
Thank you. Okay, I will open up the Records and Public Safety Committee Department recommendations. A is an intergovernmental agreement amendment from Harrison Township Regional Emergency Dispatch Services for $58,757. I need a motion to recommend this to full board.
Motion, Zinner.
Got a motion by Commissioner Zinner and supported by Commissioner Wallace, and we have in front of us our Dispatch Director, Angela Elsey.
Good
Ms. Elsey,
afternoon.
go ahead.
So today I'm here to seek an approval of an amendment for our dispatch services contract with Harrison Township. And this is just an amendment to the overall maintenance cost that they pay the county for their contribution to some of our shared contracts for certain technologies and different softwares that we utilize. Harrison Township is one of several communities that shares costs with Macomb County for the annual maintenance of the Tyler Technologies contract, which is their records management system and their CAD, computer-aided dispatch system, which is how we share information with them electronically. They have made some really strategic decisions to transition to some cloud-based solutions, which actually reduce their overall maintenance and contribution to the Tyler Technologies contract and to our county IT support, which is all paid for as a part of this contract. So overall, it's reducing Harrison Township's contribution to maintenance approximately $64,000 over the 3 years of the contract. And I will take any questions.
Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Angela. I'm
Commissioner?
assuming by what you just said that Harrison Township has been spoken to and have agreed with this. And
Yes, they've already,
know it's coming.
correct, they've already signed the intergovernmental agreement.
That's what we want to
Yes.
hear. Thank
Yes.
you.
You're
That's
welcome.
all I have, Chair.
Okay, I see no other speakers. I have a motion in support. Please vote.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ange.
Motion passes 12-0.
Item B is a budget amendment with the prosecutor's office. It's a fiscal grant fund for optimizing body worn camera evidence, $333,333. I have Mr. Biondo as Chief of Special Prosecutors. I need a motion to recommend this to full board.
Support.
So I have a motion by Commissioner Lucido and support by Commissioner Lucido. Mr. Biondo.
Thank you, Chair Romano, for the introduction and for the opportunity to present on this agenda item and the others that are scheduled for today. We're joined today by Prosecutor Lucido, who may offer additional commentary. With respect to this agenda item, we're looking for unanimous board support. This really should be viewed as the latest chapter in the success story of what this board and Prosecutor Lucido have been able to do with Mr. Fischer as a grant writer on our behalf. And so this specific 2025 fiscal year budget amendment to the prosecuting attorney grant funds budget would increase intergovernmental revenue by $333,000. This is because it's $1 million grant from the DOJ over a 3-year period, and related to that would be an increase in personnel expenditures line item in the grant budget for $333,000. Again, the third of the million. And this is all for the funding of 3 additional grant-funded positions: an assistant prosecuting attorney, 1 position, a prosecutor and investigator, and an administrative assistant. It's 100% federal grant award, no county match required for the payment of the full freight of the personnel costs for these 3 grant-funded employees. And so, as I mentioned in the detailed description here, we have 22 police agencies in Macomb County submitting body-worn camera digital evidence. As you can imagine, we have a digital intake pipeline when that comes in, when we have police agencies submitting their warrants, requests for arrest warrants to be authorized. We are going to use these grant-funded positions to figure out how to more efficiently manage the intake of that digital evidence. That's going to be primarily focused in the warrant unit. And then once we get that optimized, we intend to sort of do the same thing sort of midstream when we get to the point of discovery, to make sure that obviously defense counsel is receiving all the evidence they need to receive through the discovery process, and ultimately the trial process as well, making sure that we're officially managing all this data. As this board knows, this is something that Prosecutor Lucido foresaw as an issue along with this board, and we've been addressing, which is why back in 2000, when we saw this flood of digital evidence coming, we worked on investing with the board into the prosecutor's office a digital evidence system, evidence.com by Exxon, digital case management system by Carpel. And so these grant-funded positions would help us optimize those systems in what we're currently doing. And so procedurally, I wanted to highlight that this particular grant award, we obviously applied for it in 2024. The grant award was dated November 15th. Took about a week for me to be able to access that through the finance department. We submitted the contract routing packet, got that approved. And so now we're asking for the board's approval to implement this through the budget so that we can put that grant money to work. I'm happy to answer any questions on this particular agenda item. Are there any questions?
I have a question for you, Mr. Biano. Is this, you got it down here as a fiscal grant. Is this a 1-year grant, or is this something that will continue? Is there something, there's money there available every year?
Yes, sir. So this is a 3-year grant. It's $1 million, and it's a third of grant revenue each year, this being the first year. And so the idea would be that these 3 positions through this grant, they would be implemented this year, the following year, and then the 3rd year.
Okay. I see no speakers. Please vote.
Motion passes 12-0.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Item C is Consulting Services Agreement, David Fischer Consulting, LLC, Consulting Services for $36,000. We have Mr. Biondo again, Chief of Special Prosecutions. I need a motion, recommend this to full board.
So move.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Hall, supported by Commissioner Perna. Mr. Biondo.
Thank you, Commissioners. So on this item, we're looking for renewal of Mr. Fisher's contract at $36,000 to be our grant writer. It's the same contract price as 2024. As I covered in the summary, Mr. Fischer has successfully provided consulting services to the prosecuting attorney's office in 2023, 2024. And this is our request to continue the success in 2025. Thanks to the board approving his contract each year at the request of Prosecutor Lucido, Macomb County Prosecuting Attorney's Office has received over $3.5 million in new grant funding. In 2023, with the consulting services provided, we were able to obtain for the first time the Department of Justice Conviction Integrity DNA grant, the DOJ hate crimes grant, and the largest auto theft grant we ever received from the state of Michigan in over a decade. With these 3 items alone totaling almost $2.5 million in new grant funding to the county. In 2024, with the consulting service provided, which we just covered, we were able to obtain 100% no county match needed federal grant award of $1 million to fund the optimization of the warrant unit's review of body worn camera digital evidence, being the DOJ optimizing body worn camera evidence grant. I'm sorry, sir. I was just highlighting that the grant we just covered is his latest success story in addition to all the previous year's work he's done for us. And so I just wanted to highlight that going forward with this, obviously, we want to be able to continue to pursue additional grant funding to spare the general fund. Happy to answer any further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Biondo. Yes, we do. Chair Sabatini.
Thank you, Chair. Hey, Joe.
Hello, sir.
I just want to say kudos to yourself, to the prosecutor. You know, when this was brought to us originally, it was a business decision. It was really a no-brainer. I know you pushed for this because you knew what the end result was and what the value proposition was. We just saw it a minute ago on the last thing we just voted on and supported, but a $36,000 contract, and we're getting millions of dollars in return. I mean, it says a lot about how you took this, and we're seeing the benefits of it right now. So thank you for doing that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, sir.
Let me just piggyback on that since I see no other speakers. When this was originally brought to us, this gentleman agreed to work for free, and he was working for free when we first started this off. So he was looking for grant money for prosecutor's office and wasn't getting paid for it. And as the chair just mentioned, since he has been, and this is a paltry sum, this $36,000, I think it's pretty good investment for a return of millions of dollars. So I think it's a heck of a deal for us, and I want to thank them also. That's all I have. I have a motion in support. Please vote. Sarah, he can't vote, Sarah.
Motion passes 12 to 0.
Good job, Jay.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Item D is a memorandum of understanding, 37th District Court, Drug Court. This is no cost to the county, and that Mr. Biondo, Chief of Special Prosecutions, also here. I need a motion to recommend 3AD and AE to full board.
So move.
I've got a motion by Commissioner Hall, supported by Commissioner. No, he can't support. Who was the other commissioner that supported?
Actually, it was Sarah.
Commissioner Aceto. Mr. Biondo.
Thank you, Commissioners. So last year, we came before the board indicating that we wanted to start bringing these MOUs with the various treatment courts in the court before the board, pursuant to Prosecutor Luceto's focus on transparency. What I wanted to highlight regarding both of these memos, the first one regarding the 37th District Court, that's for the Warren Drug Court. It's being requested by the 37th District Court Chief Judge John Chimura. This particular MOU is different from the last year one because it's modeled off a new template from SCAO, the Michigan Supreme Court Administrative Office. And so one of the provisions in the new MOU is fundamentally that this will continue to be automatically renewed unless there's some kind of substantive change that would warrant us bringing it back for you guys to review and approve that substantive change. So this item is unlikely to come up again unless there's some kind of change that the treatment court is asking in the paperwork, and of course we would bring it at that time. Likewise, the MOU for the 38th District Court, that's for the East Point Treatment Court, that's being asked by the 38th District Court Chief Judge Kathleen Galen. This is actually a new treatment court that's being established as opposed to Warren where it's a continued treatment court. And so these are things that we're excited to be involved in. It involves non-violent offenders, and it's a way for them to basically go through a process where they're less likely to commit crimes as opposed to the more traditional approach. I don't know if you've ever had the pleasure of attending any of the drug treatment or veterans treatment courts by the various judges in our county. I mean, it's amazing to attend those and watch and listen to what those people go through. It's pretty humbling, and Prosecutor Luceto supports these programs. The local district court judges as well. This board has always supported them, and we'd like your support to continue in this effort.
Thank you, Mr. Biondo. I see no speakers. I have a motion in support for items D and E. Please vote.
Motion passes 12 to 0.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Item F is a resolution 2025, item 12876. It's a resolution to approve the appointment of outside legal counsel for the prosecuting attorney in Court of Appeals case number 374004 and related engagement agreement. Mr. Biondo is also speaking on this. I need a motion to recommend this to full board.
Motion Zinner?
Support.
I have a motion by Commissioner Zinner, supported by Commissioner. Who supported it?
No.
Perna supported, and Commissioner Perna. Good, Mr. Biondo.
Yes, I just want to make sure I'm addressing the correct resolution. This is the appointment for outside counsel.
A resolution to approve the appointment of outside legal counsel for the prosecuting attorney, Court of Appeals case.
Very good. So with respect to this item, we're asking for an appointment for outside counsel. There's a pending lawsuit. Mr. Don Frizard is present to answer any questions the board may have regarding this agenda item or the lawsuit more specifically. As a part of this agenda item, we've included, of course, the BOC recommendation sheet, the Resolution 2024-05 Fiscal Year 2025 General Appropriations Ordinance is just effectively what we're trying to enforce. The engagement agreement by Frizard and Associates for the legal services on this case. We've also included Mr. Frizard's resume in light of the fact that this would be the first time that he would be working for the county as a county vendor. Mr. Frizard provided a vendor disclosure form, his W-9, all the things that are required for this type of agreement to be reviewed and approved by the board. Of course, being a new vendor, he has no payment history with the board, so I couldn't provide that. And I believe it's a pretty straightforward issue. As I indicated in the recommendation sheet, we require legal representation to implement the 2025 fiscal year adopted budget. A suit has been filed. We referenced the case number. It's pending. In light of the timing constraints of the statute, we had to file at the beginning of the month, basically, and so that's why we're asking for approval at this point, which was the soonest we can get before the board. As I indicated, Mr. Frizard is here available to answer any questions regarding the lawsuit, and I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
I don't see any speakers. Oh, I'm sorry, didn't see that. Did that pop up?
I'm there.
Okay, I'm sorry. Chair Sabatini.
Thank you, Chair. Hey, Joe.
Hello, sir.
So a couple things, just to kind of recap this item. I know this lawsuit was just recently filed a couple days ago. I want to say something about our staff. We always give kudos to our staff. Me being in this position now, I can see firsthand how great of a staff we have. I've always said it, but the way that they divert, change, make changes, listen to other departments over and over and over, they do a fabulous job. And I just want to say that because we've had a busy week, to say the least, and there's been a lot of moving parts with this. But we're in a situation here where we have a disagreement. We had a disagreement last year where the prosecutor did file suit. Last year's position by the board was to support this. We also, in support of that, the prosecutor did go to court and had a ruling from the Court of Appeals in his favor. We then passed the budget last year, and it included items that we're talking about today. However, there were items that were in the event of HR-related matters that, as a board, we've said that that's not our lane to be in. So we've stayed out of that lane. However, with this litigation, these are kind of encompassed. But I just want to be clear that, this item in the sense of where we stand as a board and what we're looking to do here is to allow the prosecutor to do what he needs to do and the executive to do what he needs to do. This is not our battle. This is a disagreement between the two of them. So that all being said, it's kind of a rewind and play here situation. Long story short, I've thought about this and how best to handle this personally, and I've come to the decision that I'm going to support this. And the reason that I'm supporting this item here today is because I believe in our process and what we've accomplished and what we've passed as a board. Wrong or right between other parties, if they disagree with that, they're going to have to sort that out, and a court has already ruled on this. So I'm abiding by that, and that's why I'm backing this resolution today. So I just wanted to say that, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, sir.
Any other speakers? We have a motion in support. Please vote.
Commissioner Zenner, I didn't receive a vote for you. Did it pop up?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. We'll move on to item H, was a resolution for 2025. Item number 12875 is a resolution to approve legal services for the prosecuting attorney. Mr. Biondo is also going to speak to that. I need a motion, recommend this to full board.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make that motion, but with a minor change. I'd like to make a motion to move Resolution 2025-12875 to full board with the following changes. I'd like to remove an engagement letter with Evans Law Group, PC, and an engagement agreement with Fischer and Associates, PC, from both sections of the resolution.
Is it Senator? Oh, sorry. I thought it was the first one.
I have a resolution and an amendment to the resolution, and it has support. I'm not showing anybody else on my speaking engagement.
Speak to the next one.
Chair,
Yeah, Chair, if I could, just briefly,
ahead.
just with the amendment, I support the amendment in regards to this item. Looking over these contracts, I didn't like the language in the Evans Law Group contract specifically stating a total amount of $42,500. I think that puts the county at risk. The other three contracts I didn't have any issues with. So simply they had their hourly fee in there. In the last one in regards to the Fischer and Associates, and we just passed an item in regards to him representing the prosecutor and also filing suit here in the county. I'm not an attorney, but I would think there's some type of conflict or there's some type of an issue. I just don't like how that looks and feels. Obviously, if something happens here in the future where things are resolved, even with the Evans Law Group, if that contract's amended, you can certainly always come back to this board and we can add those counsels in. But at this time, based on what we've seen, I think this is the best way to handle this. Thank you, Chair.
You want, Commissioner Kraft, there's something else you wanted to add? Go
Yes, thank you. Chair Sabatini basically covered everything I was going to say, except I want to add this, and I'm going to stress this because I have repeated this all week long so many times. Mr. Biondo's heard it. Prosecutor Lucido's heard it. Many of you have heard it. That $42,500 is a blanket amount. It is not $42,500 for Cummings, McClory, Davis, and Acho. It's not $42,500 for Perkins Law Group. It's not $42,500 for Plunkett Cooney. It can be, but it could only be one of them, or it could be dispersed amongst the three of them. Or if the prosecutor and Mr. Biondo come back and add Evans, it could be dispersed amongst the four of them. That $42,500 is a blanket dollar amount, so we're not spending $200,000+ on this item. I just want to make that perfectly crystal clear. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Kraft just made perfectly clear what I was going to ask, so I don't need to. Thank you.
That's it? Before I ask for a vote on this, I just want to add into this. My committee, and I'm sure every committee here, has what we call policy and procedures. I personally don't want anything submitted to my committee without it going through civil clerk. Now, you bypassed that already a couple of times. I'm just telling you, my committee will not accept anymore. That's bypassing civil clerk. You go to them first, then you come to us. The other thing I want to mention, and this is on a personal level, Mr. Lucido is behind you, I believe. Serving subpoenas to people that work for the county personally at their home, in my opinion, is absolutely wrong. That's why we have a legal department. That's where it's to be served at. And I don't want to hear about time constraints. I don't want to hear about we had to do it this way because we couldn't get all of them. That's what we have a legal department for. And from the future, if this continues, you're going to have a hard time with this committee. So I'm just giving you that in front. I'm going to support this, but I'm giving you that in front. Watch what you're doing. With no other questions, with no other, I have a motion to support, please vote.
Motion passes 12-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Mr. Biondo. Item H is waived by the Government Oversight Committee Chair. It's a resolution for 2025-12923, a resolution calling for a special election to fill the remainder of the term of Macomb County Commissioners for District 1. I need a motion to recommend this to full board.
So move.
Support.
I have a motion by Commissioner Hall, supported by Commissioner Girat. Okay. And I believe this was when we had all the interviews yesterday. I guess my question is to the chair, when does this actual election take place?
Yes, so we wanted to have this on yesterday's agenda. Unfortunately, it didn't get there in time. So thankfully, Commissioner Hall had waived it to today's committee. But yes, so this is a resolution calling for the special election. This was discussed with Corporation Counsel, with the county clerk, also our independent counsel, all in confirmation that the special election will be held in 2 years, in 2026, for the filling of District 1, Commissioner Brown's district. This is representing 9 different municipalities. So certainly there was a lot of discussion in how this was going to be handled. I know some people wanted it sooner rather than later. But dealing with 9 communities and 9 communities that would have to have a special election, fund that special election, there was certainly a lot of animosity in the sense that affordability, staffing, et cetera, et cetera. So the consensus was in adoption to what we have in our charter and what we worked out in conjunction with the county clerk and corporation counsel, the decision, and I know Commissioner Hall can confirm this because he was also involved in this, but this was the decision that was made.
Thank you. I have some speakers on this. Commissioner Perna?
Regarding the special election, we don't know what the cost is going to be for these communities, 1. 2, why can't we leave this open in the event there is a special election in Macomb County as a result of retirement or other issues? And personally, I think that we should have this election as soon as we can so we can have continue continuity of who is our next commissioner representing District 1. These 9 communities, which is, I'm not going to mention all 9, but obviously they don't have it in their budget right now to have a special election, and we have no idea what the cost would be. Is it against us, or do we support a quicker election than 2 years from now? So making a motion right now that not to do it for 2 years kind of ties our hands a little bit. In the event there is a special election, we can tag onto that. My opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Hall?
I don't know if you were in favor of the 2 years or opposed.
I'm opposed.
You're opposed. Okay, then let me deal with that first. Your analogy, if there's a special election, there would have to be a special election in all 9 communities for them to be able to comprehend this 1 seat. There may be a special election in Armada and not in Washington Township. This gives them 2 years to plan on the cost of the election. Secondly, there will be representation for District 1 because next week we vote on replacing Don by virtue of the interviews of the people we had here. When we researched this, Crystal was trying to get written confirmation from, as our chairman mentioned, corporate counsel, our clerk, and the Secretary of State that they were in concurrence with postponing it for 2 years. So there will be, after next week, representation for District 1. When you have the magnitude of communities that District 1 encompasses, you can't wait for a special election because one community may have one and the other community not. So now you're forcing them to put the county commissioner's seat on there. So this goes back to the conversation we had over the sheriff's contract. Planning, make sure the local municipalities are aware that something is coming their way for them to be able to budget for it. I personally talked to one of the clerks who's ecstatic. She's not one of the 9 communities because she doesn't have to deal with this. But the other 9 are now being given advance notification that this is coming in 2 years to allow them to budget for it. So we're doing the reverse of the issue we brought up with the sheriff's contract, the local municipalities not being aware. This time, we're making them aware. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you,
And I'm
Commissioner.
glad I sent this over to you.
Commissioner Van Sickle.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure what definition of election people are using. I define this as a primary election and a general election. So I believe the special elections would be 2. So we wouldn't have to do it once in all 9 communities. We'd have to do it twice because this is a partisan position, which would double the cost. So this is absolutely the way to go, to postpone it to when the cost is virtually null because they're having elections anyway. Thank you.
Commissioner Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Quickly, I am supportive of this timeline. It makes perfect sense to tack it on to other elections that are already happening because I think what we may be forgetting, and which is very new, is also early voting. So you're not just paying for staff to be in the office for one election day. There are multiple days of voting now that they would have to find staff for and pay them for those days. So it's not just a 12-hour day or 15-hour day. It's over multiple days now. And I think it just makes more sense to add this on to elections that are already happening next year. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Perna on the second round.
Just for clarification, Commissioner Hall, unless there would be a county special election. County special election between now and 2 years. It could happen.
How?
If there's a county election, a judge, the top 5, we would have a special election that could be incorporated in that. Am I correct?
There could and there could not.
Right, but I'm just saying,
I don't think we plan on the if-come that something could happen, especially when you're dealing with 9 communities.
all I'm saying, the door would be open if there's a special election for a county position, that's all.
Okay. So I got to, maybe somebody can answer my questions too. I'm kind of in the dark a little bit about this. So this special election, first of all, do you think it'd be wise to find out what is it going to cost each individual municipality? We've got 9 of them we're dealing with. What is the cost going to be? And when we say special election, I took for granted, is there a certain date that we have to have it by? If we appoint somebody now, why couldn't we have a special election in June in just those municipalities for District 1? So whoever can take that, I would appreciate an answer.
I can help with that, or we can ask the deputy clerk back there. If we were to have it in June, the local municipalities wouldn't have budgeted for it, and we'd be putting an unnecessary burden on them.
Let's find out, don't we think it'd be wise to find out what the cost would be? I mean, don't forget now, he's in an outside district, and it's not like you're gonna do Sterling Heights where we got 135,000 people voting. I don't know what the entire group of his, we have 10 out there that might be voting. I'm being facetious, I'm sorry. But what does he have out there? A very small amount of people that are voting in all of those
In the
districts.
last elections,
Would you speak up on the microphone there if you would, Mr. Hawk, please? Thank you, sir.
Don's district was in excess of 53,000 voters.
53,000 voters.
Yeah.
And how, in the, you have 53,000 voters or 53 registered voters? What,
Registered.
there's a difference between registered voters and voters.
Right. I don't disagree with that. All I'm saying is that across the 9 communities, it was a large number of people, but I can defer to our deputy clerk over there.
Deputy Clerk, come on up here. You've been sitting in the meetings, now let's get your intake on
Always
this.
a pleasure to have her with us.
Yes, it is.
Crystal can add some context if you need to.
So you know what my question is? You're up.
I do. And Commissioner Haw is correct. You could do that. As far as what the cost would be, I would have to check back with Mike Grix to get you that information. But it is extra responsibilities for those different municipalities. I'm not sure on the 50,000 like you said, but that does sound right. And it is more work for the municipalities to do. Could you do it? You could. It is doable.
So my statement is, it's a county commissioner. How many people, if it was a regular election, I don't imagine how many people would turn up. But for a county commissioner, how many people are actually going to turn up to vote? And I'm considering, again, the cost, as Mr. Perna said, we could go all the way down to the 2-year and do any time if there's an election before that. So,
And I can't speak for the different municipalities, obviously, but they would still have to plan ahead for those 50,000 voters who could possibly vote if it's 50,000 voters. So they'd have to prepare the ballots. They would have to get the staffing for it. There'd be a lot more to it. It'd be a regular election for them. We're calling it special, but instead of a 6-year term, the 2-year term. I understand what you're saying there too. But I can't speak for the different, municipalities, but I can get that information for you if you'd like.
thank you. Yes, I would.
Okay.
Chair, is there some way to approve the resolution calling for special election stop without giving a date? This way we get more information and realize if we want to actually have a special election instead of waiting it for 2 years.
Well, I think what we could do, as the deputy clerk has said, she's willing to get us the numbers. Full board is next week. I'm sure we could get it, obviously, before next week. We could move this forward. If we need to amend this resolution in any way, shape, or form, that's an option to do it as well. I know Crystal's here as well. I don't know, Crystal, if you have any other context to add to this. I mean, I know you're involved in this, but, the burden is correct. I mean, 9 communities here to deal with. And, each one of our districts encompasses, about 60,000 voters. So obviously, that district has a high turnout. Now, I don't know if they would in a special election like this, but I think it's prudent to put it in 2 years theoretically because there will be a higher turnout. And Don has been in that district for a number of years. It's not a perfect scenario, but I think we're trying to do our best to solve the problem at hand, and this is probably the best solution to the problem.
I have no problems with what you just said, moving it to full board and then getting the information, and then maybe we can get a better handle on it once we get additional information. Commissioner Zinner?
Well, I think we have to have a defined date, which we have here, and we especially have to have it for the people who want to run. Whether it's a short time period before they would plan to run or not, I mean, this date gives them 2 years to do that in. It's with a regular election. It seems a bit long to me, but it covers all the points. It covers all the main points to me. We should see if something pops up. Well, how are they going to be ready for that? We don't even know if that's going to happen. We need a defined date, and this has already been set. It's been talked about by the people who plan this stuff. Just because it seems long, I don't see it as a problem. I think it's a defined date. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Howard.
I was just going to speak towards your question about the 9 communities. So if 9 communities happen, they'd have to have 9 early day voting sites for 9 days. And if you average about 5 people per voting site, because you also have to have, because it's a partisan election, folks from different parties, you're talking about 3,240 just on the bare minimum of staffing hours total for all 9 communities. And then days of pre-processing or processing AVs, 40 days of AVs, and you have to mail everyone, even if someone's going to show up to vote for a county commissioner race, you still have to mail that entire population. So you're talking about 106,000 pieces of mail that have to go out twice or 4 times for those elections. So the cost burden is super substantial. We dealt with this in Warren because we just had a special election for one of our former county commissioners. And it was a huge cost. And the city of Warren had the budget to absorb that cost with some neighboring cities like Roseville and stuff, but it's a huge cost for those. And the only exception, I think, and possibly to speak to what other commissioners, is if there is a countywide special election, for whatever reason, it wouldn't be, that added cost wouldn't be on there if there was already going to be one. But in the next 2 years, I don't know that there's a foreseeable countywide special election.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Aceto.
Yes, so I had a lot of questions about this myself, and I do agree, like, if we can wait 2 years to hold this election, I think that we absolutely should because of the cost to the municipalities. Especially like you said, with the early voting, 8 days early, things like that. So I do support that. My only biggest concern was just to make sure that we were following our charter, and I'm hoping to make sure I get those questions answered before our next. I'm going to support this today, hopefully get that done before full board. But other than that, yeah, I totally support this because if we can wait, I definitely think we should.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Van Sickle.
Thank you. I just checked with Commissioner Howard, and his estimates was for the election. We also need to have that same number of hours and costs for the primary.
So it's a double cost.
Yeah.
So it's huge.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. All set? Commissioner Van Sickle, all set?
Yes, thank you.
On the second round, Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, Chair. I really don't want to minimize the amount of work that Crystal put into this. This is not a date that we picked out of the air. She talked to the experts. We asked them to send it to us in writing, and it was them that recommended this. This wasn't anything that either her or I or, well, Joe wasn't there then, but we wanted to make sure we followed what was correct at the recommendations of those that were conducting elections and were responsible for elections. And Barb, you hit the nail right on the head. We just did 15 interviews here, and we didn't tell one of them you're going to have to run in June if somebody dies and the county has a special election. I don't know how you do that to the individuals. We're going to make an appointment, but that doesn't mean the other 14 there aren't going to prepare to run against that appointment. So in the order of fairness, we're given the opportunity to appoint somebody. We have followed the recommendation of the experts. We attempted to get it in writing. So the whole process, this wasn't something that was picked out of the air. This was recommended to us. And Crystal, thank you for all the work you did. We probably had 30 phone calls on this issue alone. Thank you, Chair.
Is there any
Just one.
commissioners enter on the second round?
Thank you, Chair. I want to thank Commissioner Lucido for giving me a call, and we dialogued about this before it all kind of came out. And I thought about it and called her back and said, you're right, and this is what I think we should do, and we agreed. So I think we may have all agreed now. I don't know. We will find out. And thank you very much, Sarah.
Okay, I see no other speakers. I have a motion in support. Please vote.
What are we voting for again? Oh, what we have? Just checking.
It's kind of like
Don't
that
slip
all
stuff
day,
in
Barbie.
there.
We're moving this to full board, all right?
Motion passes 12 to 0.
I'm sorry, would you have one more time?
Motion passes 12 to 0.
Thank you.
Oh, it's kind of weird having an empty chair, I'll
It's
tell you.
worth the whole-
All right, item 9 is public participation. This is 3 minutes per speaker. This is the opportunity for public participation, and it's for those who wish to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes on any issue that is germane to this meeting. Go ahead.
Now I have to look up the word germane, for Pete's sakes. Andy McKinnon, again, Harrison Township, Michigan, again, 42778. Thank you, Commissioner. I kind of wanted to echo a little bit. I wanted to just mention a couple of things and echo Commissioner Sabatini's statements about Mary, Adriana, Kyle, Luke, Savannah, Becky, and Crystal. You guys have exceptional employees here at the Board of Commission. I try not to, and I mentioned this to some of the commissioners the other day, I try not to call, email, and harangue them all the time, because we could certainly be in their ear all the time, and we all have a lot of work to do, and that can absolutely delay and bog down the process. I had mentioned earlier my feelings on the approvals for Prosecutor Lucido's legal fees to sue this board and the county moving forward, and it's very, very clear within the litigation that the complaint is against both the executive and this board for their actions through the appropriations process. I'm happy to have any conversation with this board, with any singular board member or small group of board members, as long as we don't constitute a quorum in between now and the full board. If you have any questions that you would like answered, we're more than happy to answer those. And Commissioner Romano, I appreciate your comments on the appropriateness of service, especially when the lawsuit had not been filed, when that had been served and showed up at Executive Hackle's office. So one last thing that I do want to focus on, though, and it goes back to our staff. And last year, Prosecutor Lucido sued the Ethics Board and Corporation Counsel in the Macomb County Circuit Court. When he did that, our Corporation Counsel came to this board and asked for representation so that they could defend themselves within that action. One of the reasons that I understand Prosecutor Lucido is asking for pre-litigation counsel is to support his staff. I am staff in this county. I have no greater passion than the staff for this county. I've said that since I was appointed as the HR director. I've had the exceptional opportunity to work with so many people here. They are so good, and we support our staff, period. This board, through approvals of the collective bargaining agreements over and over and over again, supports our staff in this county, period. So while we today approved to move to full board these funds, to have Prosecutor Lucido sue us once again, and possibly to approve funds to help support staff if they need litigation expertise, I would ask that we do extend that to all staff, including the Ethics Board, who does not get paid to work for this county, and Corporation Counsel when they ask for that kind of support. That's really all that I have to offer at that point. Again, I would, of course, ask for reconsideration at full board for the approvals of today. But I really do appreciate working with this board, Commissioner Sabatini, Chair Sabatini. I guess can I say that at this committee meeting? Chair Sabatini. I just think we're going to have great opportunities to work together to do a lot of great things moving forward. These issues are clarification issues that we will get through. And I just really look forward to continuing to work with each and every board member. So thank you for the time. I hope I didn't exceed 3 minutes. Thank you, Commissioner Romano.
You don't have to tell us how great our staff is. I think we all know. And we do appreciate them. We really do. They are good people. Anybody else in the public who wishes to speak? Seeing and hearing none, I'm going to close public participation. I'm going to go into commissioners' comments. Now, let's see if we can get this right. Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to amend one little attribute of what Andrew said. He said any of us can call him to get the background and what's transpired. My recommendation, and I think Joe's ultimately going to make it a policy, is we talk to Crystal first. She may have all this data. I'm guaranteeing you she's got a file in there about that thick, and she could provide the background on what we needed. If we, 13 of us, all start calling department heads, that's not going to be very popular in a short period of time. So I appreciate your offer, Andrew, but my recommendation is, supported by Joe and Phil, is call Crystal first. Thank you, Joe. She's used to it, let me tell you.
I see no other speakers. Any other commissioners want to make any comments? And if I don't see and hear any, I'm going to go to the next item, which is item 11.
Support.
I have a motion by Commissioner, what's your name again? Rick. And who supported it? You did. Please vote.